Hello, welcome back to the continuation of our CSS tutorial. We've been through the basics of CSS and we have used one or two properties and in continuation we'll be doing table for today's lesson. So tables are interesting features or elements in HTML and they deserve to be styled. So I'll go ahead and create a new HTML file, call it table.html. Remember, our HTML codes are written in the HTML part of the HTML files. Why CSS? If you are using external, you write them in the external CSS. So I'll go ahead and delete all these in our CSS2, so that's what we'll be using. We want to keep the codes clean, so if I want, I can just go ahead and even delete all these ones. There is no need keeping them as we are not using them for anything. So but I have a static table in our old lesson. I'll just go ahead and copy it so that we can use it actually. So okay, till table here. So if I paste it in our body, you will see that the table is actually a complete HTML table, nothing changed. I will name this as HTML table practice, right? So now I'll go live with it using live server. So that if I switch to the browser, you will see the table that I just designed. You can see it here. So if I switch back to the code editor, you see that it's just a normal table. So we'll just also we will rename this to styles, no longer styles 2, so that you will understand. So we are going to, first of all, what should we do first? So we'll be writing CSS code to beautify or support how this table renders on our HTML page. So I'm going to call this style.css in here, which is link href style.css. Rel is style sheet, style sheet, correct. So I'll go ahead and self close the link tag here. So if I come, okay, no, let's continue writing the code. So the first thing I want to do here is to remember that if you look at the browser here, right, the browser here, excuse me. So you see that the table has been created quite okay here. Forget about the space I added there, is for just for us to have a visible table. So if I want, I can specify the width of this table specifically. um, let's say if I come to my CSS, I can just say table using the direct element selector for the tag table. I will just come and say width. I will come and say 100, let's say 70% or 60%, so that it doesn't become too big and not too small. So so this is what I just did. Sorry, I was not on the code editor. So if I came to CSS after calling my styles on this HTML file, I went to the CSS and typed the table. The table table element selector on CSS and specify the width to be 60%. And since we have already called the we have already called our CSS file here, it will automatically look for this element which is called table and impute whatever attributes or whatever properties of CSS that we are using to display how the table renders on our HTML page. So if you go back to the browser and refresh, you will see that why is the table blank? Okay, see that the you see that the table actually came. As you can see it here, it's looking 60% already. So the next thing I want us to add is we want to add border. Remember in table, right? So we have table rows, table columns, and then this table head. So if I want to style, we have already done this extensively in our previous HTML class. So if you don't understand how this HTML table is arranged here, you can just go back to our old videos and watch them and be updated. So if I want border to be attached to this table, all I just need to do is to come here and put border. Let's say border, you already learned border, so let's say 1 pixel solid black, like this. So if I come back to the browser, you will see that the table has a border around it all. That means it's covering the entire body, not the table rows and the table data. So we'll go back to our code editor and do something briefly. We can just come back to the code editor and open the table data and put the same border to it too, which is like this. So if I come back to the browser, you will discover that both the table and the table rows are now having border, except the table head here. So if we want us to create a border around the table head, we go back to the code editor also and create another table for the table head. We will now repeat exactly this same thing here. So when we come back to the browser and refresh, you see that this table head also have border now. The table data have border, the whole table have border. So that makes a lot of sense. So now we have several elements here with the same properties. So we can actually group them into one, since they are all having the same properties. So instead of writing them, they are having the same properties and values. So instead of rewriting them multiple times, I can just come and put it on one line separated by a comma. So yeah, td th. So it's the same border. We will test if the width is not affecting it, then we can change it back. So okay, so now it's actually affecting it wrongly. So we are going to come here, remove the width. We are going to go there and remove the width from the group and put it separately on its own. So we can just put table here and put width. So width is no longer part of this group selectors that we did. So if you come back to the browser and refresh it, the table now becomes normal. As you can see, it's normal as it's supposed to be. So but you see this table have some weird borders around it here. which is not something that we might want, right? You see that it have um, some weird border around it. So the thing we have to do is to remove the weird double border that have been wrapped on that have been wrapped within the table itself. So that is how what we are going to go ahead and do. Okay, just a moment. Okay, so now well, let's go back to our code editor. So the property that you apply to remove the double border from the table is border collapse, and the value for it is collapse. So if we go back to our browser and check this, you will see that the border is no longer double braced, it's now having a single border to it. So now that we have been able to achieve this, the next thing we are going to do is to add padding to our we are going to add padding to the space between the content of this our table here. So all I just need to do is to simply come back to the code go back to the code editor, and in the table data and table head here, I can just simply come here and add padding here, and let's say I use 10 pixel. If I come back to the browser and we refresh, you can see that this the table has been padded correctly just by the command that we have written to add some padding to the table. So you see, tables are really very sweet and simple. Okay, okay, so now that we have if I want, for example, this heading here, I want to style it differently from the rest of the the table data that is contained in the rest of the rows of the table. All I just need to do is to simply target the table head separately here and change the background color. So now we're going to use a deep green or forest green background color for this. So if I transition back to my code, I can just come here and target table head, just the table head, and then I'll do background color like this. So now if I come back to this, you can see that the background color have changed. But now that the background color is actually a green, it is actually wise that we change the color of the text to white so that it will fit in exactly to the background color. So we'll go back to the code. Hello. Fine, please, I'm doing a tutorial, so just give me a minute. Alright, so I'll just come here and do color, let's say white, so that the text will fit into the background perfectly. So if I come back, go back to my browser, you see that the text is now correctly um, the text is now white while the background is green on it. So all that you have learned, this can actually you can actually apply the rest of all the css properties and values you have been learning so far to tables, and it's all the same, right? So you notice very well that this table has the the borders are actually kind of way they don't look, it doesn't really fit into the table or the background that we have added to the table head. So we'll go ahead and change it to a different property. So instead of this solid black, we use color code that doesn't look like white, it's kind of off white. So we'll go back and to our browser, you see the color is kind of milky and beta adjusting to the background that we have added at the top and all of that. So these are the simple properties that can be applied to table. So if you observe very well, you see that the content of our table head is aligned center. Yeah, right. So if you want it to align left, you can always come back to your code and use um, align left. The align property left. What am I doing? Oh, it's text align left. So instead of it to appear in the middle, it will start appearing to the left hand side the of the table data. So also this one, if you want to align them to the center, you want whatever you want to do, if you want to target this particular column only and change the color, all you just need to do is to declare a selector and just call it here. How do I mean? Let's say I want to change this phone number to red, the color to red, right? All I just need to do is to come to my code editor here. I'm on code editor already. I'll just name it change color or something like that. I'll just say color red. So if I come here, I look for the phone number I want to change the color. If I come here and do class color, change color. Okay, so I added the class there. If we go back to the browser, you see that the color of this text have been changed. So just as you have the element selector that controls how the table should look like, how the table should work, you can also manipulate just the other content with it, performing the operation, all these color changing of specific areas and all of that within the within the table itself. It's not just limited to controlling it with the selector itself. So we don't really need all this color rioting in our table, so we'll go ahead and leave that out. Yeah, so like I told you now let's talk about something very sweet. Let's talk about okay, so now I want to explain something quickly to you that okay. Okay, so now that we have we have this. We can control how the individual, now that we have our table at this level, right, we can control how the individual rows are styled. We can control how individual rows are tied, so that if I come here, okay, okay, what I want to explain to you is briefly on pseudo class. Sorry, I'm a bit distracted. Okay, so what I want to explain to you right now is pseudo class. In CSS, we have various properties uh, that can be applied just within the normal selector that we create, and one of such is pseudo class. A pseudo class itself is not a class, but it is going to take effect, special effect on on a class itself. So for example, let's say I want to add pseudo, let's say I create a table row. I can change how the effect of a particular element works if I hover on the element. So by that, there is no any other way you can do it than to add a pseudo effect called hover on the element, such that if somebody is browsing your website and they place their mouse pointer on it, it will automatically just change the color or the background color to whatever you have instructed it to do. So let's go ahead. So if I create a table row like this, if I have a background color and I change it to this, let's use DDD. Look at how it will give us. Go back. Can you see that all the backgrounds have changed to this? The background color of the table row have changed to this. But this is not what we want for now. What we actually want is that if we hover over the table rows, it should change the individual color of the table row. That is exactly what we want to achieve. So how do we do that? We can just simply use a pseudo class to handle how the element on our web page reacts to hover effect. So instead of just tying it to tr, I can just say you see this tr, if I hover you by adding a pseudo class. So you see how did I do it? I created the selector first. I added a full colon, then the pseudo class that I want to use. In this our case, it is hover. So if I come back to the browser here, you see it has removed the background. Can you see as I'm hovering over this table, it is giving us the desired effect by changing the background of the row to the color that we have specified. So that is what pseudo classes is can help us to achieve just within our CSS, uh, usage. So there are many more examples of pseudo classes. So I just brought this up based on this particular thing I want to achieve here. So you can make more research, go to W3 School, look at the how table works better, in case you find it difficult to understand some of the terms I'm using here and all of that. So you can make your own personal research and then get more insight to how this thing can be handled. So now that we have okay, so now there's another pseudo class I want to show you. So now we'll call it the nth child. The nth child. I will call it the end child. Okay, so what is an end child? An end child is just when you are calculating an oh, so if I am counting these tables, if I'm counting these table rows, if I'm counting these table rows, there should be at least, oh sorry, I don't know why my browser is not reacting. Okay, let's, okay, so if I'm counting these table rows, this table row, we have first one is Moses, or second, okay, we have another double Moses there. So what's an end child? An end child is a pseudo class as element based on the position of the parent element. So now, for example, if we have the table which is the parent element. Remember that. Okay, let me think. I need to go to the code editor to explain this. End child. I'm looking for the best approach to explain this. Okay, so now we have the table here, which is the parent container. The table here is the parent container. So these rows here are the child elements to the parent element, which is the table. Is the parent element to the table, right? So now you can specify for example now. Okay, so let's go back to our browser now, use that to explain. So if you look at our table here, right, if the table rows we have here are the children to the parent element, which is the table itself, right, we can have, okay, we can have, this is an end child, end child, end child, end child, end child. So if I want to technically separate the color, the background color of this color from this color, how do I identify the color difference? All I just need to do is to simply say this is if this is the first, it is odd, then even, odd, even, odd, even. So since it's a pseudo class, I can just directly append the end child pseudo class to whatever element to whatever element we want to target, and we'll write the CSS property for the end child. It will target it and change the color or the properties to whatever we want it to be. So let's go back to the code. Let me show you. So you can see this. We have so if I want to target the background color, for the end child, I'll show you. So we are in the code. So if I go back to my CSS file, we are in the HTML part. So I can just simply come here and say table role, the nth child. Oh, it's a pseudo class, so we'll put nth child, the nth child. How was the spelling of child? Nth child here. And you see that, so now it accepts a bracket like this where you can pass either even or odd. So if I pass odd here, that means it will take the odd numbers of the n child and apply properties to it. If I change it to even, it will actually change the background of so let's practicalize it. So let's say we have this background color. Why do I always have an extra? Okay, so you see we have this. Let's switch back to the browser. You can see it already here. That means what property are we using? Is it even or odd? Let's check. So we're using even here. So if we go back to the browser, you see that the even elements of this table, the children of this table, is what it is changing the background to whatever we have specified, right? Remember, this background, this is the color we just applied, so it came here. This is the first child, so the first row becomes an odd row, while the second row becomes the even. Then this become odd, this become even, and this is odd, even, odd, even, odd, even. So that is how it works. We must not use color code and all of that. Just wanted to have a uniform this thing. So if I want the background to have let's say magenta, okay, it's magenta. If I come back to the browser, you can see the color riot there already. You can see, and the hover effect which we previously added to it is here. So that will make it work perfectly for you as it's supposed to be. We'll change it back to the color. I think it's more friendly the way it was, so that we don't come and have color riot here. So you see how this table is already looking beautiful and all of that, with hover effect, with end child property attached to it. So ensure you practice with other features of the table, uh, and we'll come back to continue the tutorial on another topic. Thank you.